Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of our 2-part special Google Next edition of Workspace Recap. We are your number one source for everything Workspace, produced by the Tab Geeks Network. My name is Jesse Nolan, my co-host is Steve Larson, and we're here to help you keep up. Special thanks to our friends at Jamf for sponsoring this episode and helping us keep bringing you ongoing coverage of Google Workspace. Steve, I gotta say, there's been an absolute ton of sessions and coverage, just videos that have been released for Google Next, and it's honestly going to take me a week to even finish getting through all of the collaboration side, which is the workspace sessions, never mind all the rest of the stuff that's for cloud. Were there more this year than last year?
It's a good question. No, I don't know. I'm not sure. I did not
feels
count.
Like it.
But it does feel like it. And I think the other thing too that we were saying is that the workspace updates seem to be incorporated more broadly into each of the days in the updates, right?
Yeah, instead of just doing a single... I mean, they dumped most of them on the first day, or a lot of them on the first day, but it was still more ongoing. And one of the things that I found interesting this year is that it was announced in the first keynote with Thomas Kurian on stage. It felt, more of a core pillar of GCP as opposed to previous years where it's kind of a second-class citizen and it's, here's that workspace thing, here's all the updates for workspace. Now it's cloud, and in cloud is this, hosting and development and workspace. It all ties together. So I thought that was, something that was really nice to see. It made it feel more part of the conference, whereas in past years, if you remember, I actually complained saying that we need to have our own conference because there's so much workspace content that needs to be covered that it overlaps with a lot of the GCP stuff, sure, but if you have people that want to be able to attend both, they couldn't. So this year, I guess thanks to COVID now, because it's all virtual and you can watch 24 hours of video content, you can cram it all in there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's even more happening next week. There's the Chrome Enterprise Partner Summit happening next week. There were updates that were happening. There were sessions happening this week with new rollouts for partners to get customer adoption scores happening. There was, I don't think what else. We had the Sustainability Summit happening also this week with Google. There were events happening in the Munich office at Google. We had C2C running a lot of events, and the Innovator Hub had people coming on site in Sunnyvale, for example, and other locations as well. And I think Germany was also their on-site location where a lot of people I know were in person at Google office there. So yeah, it was great in terms of the amount of things going on, but also it's hard to then keep track of all the stuff that's going on, or it's hard to see a concise list of, hey, here's all the stuff we're doing this week. And that's always been a challenge, I think, with Google and probably a lot of other organizations too, of everything that's going on and when it's going on. It's something that I've talked a lot about in the customer advisory forum with the Google Cloud community, and the Googlers there that are managing. I said, it's always tough to know all the events that are going on related to Workspace and GCP, and having a kind of concise list of all those things, and still kind of feels like that, of course. But yes, there's a lot of stuff that's happened, which is great.
Even just on the workspace side, it's taken us. I mean, I've personally worked on this for several hours, just trying to keep up on everything and watch the different sessions and read the blog posts. And I mean, we started this call an hour and a half ago, and we're only starting to record now, and that's just for the show notes. And I had already put in most of the updates. So
yeah. There's a lot to cover this year, and we're only focusing on the workspace side of things. So that's just one small component of everything that Next was about this year. So yeah, definitely a lot going on. And
maybe by the time next year rolls around, we'll have a GCP focused podcast too. We'll see.
Yes, that could be good.
Something to think about. I would not be the one to host that, though. I'm not
compete with the Google Cloud one that exists. That'll be tough.
Yeah.
Some tough competition there.
Yeah, well, you know what? Competition is good because pretty much most of the other competition that we had for this show has faded away because they couldn't keep up 100 episodes, like we have. Almost 100 episodes here.
Of 100 episodes, we're 2 away from the 100th episode we've done together. Because we had
super close.
Yep. Yep, episode 44 will be the 100th episode we've done together. And that includes the next episodes we did last year. It includes that Chrome session we did, the G Suite Legacy one we did this year. So sprinkle in those. We've done 98 episodes so far right now.
Weekly, folks. Weekly, back-to-back,
every week.
98 episodes.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And as a nice segue there, heading in towards the future and helping us keep the lights on is our friends at Jamf. So thank you again for sponsoring our show. It's true, when given a choice, employees choose Apple devices and Chrome devices, but Apple devices are better. And with Jamf, your Google Workspace-focused organization can support these Apple devices as first-class citizens. Level up your Apple mobility capability with Jamf's comprehensive device management and security portfolio. New employees onboarding, OS upgrades, and more, all made simple on the Apple hardware platform with Jamf. To learn more about bringing the best of the Google IT ecosystem to Apple, visit jamf.com/workspace recap. That's Jamf, J-A-M-F as in Frank.com/workspace recap. And it's funny, I went not last night, the night before, to a meetup in LA, not a Google focused one, just a IT professionals one put on by a local company, just a in-person get together. And one of the things that came up was, what are you using for managing your devices? And unanimously, everyone there was like, oh, Jamf, 100% Jamf. It's like, oh, there's these other ones, and so we'll have to get a comparison episode on SAT Showdown at some point. But everybody there was huge Jamf fans.
Well, for Mac, yes. The problem is that, I see a lot of organizations shifting over to Intune right now.
For Microsoft stuff.
Well, for everything, because it can go on everything. Does
Intune handle Macs also?
It does. It does.
Interesting.
Not necessarily very well, but if you want a single platform, to have that, and it depends on where your focus is. If you primarily have Windows devices and you have a few Macs, you can maybe get away with Intune there. And other way around, when you have a large Mac fleet, Jamf is kind of the one to go with. Interesting to see what Apple kind of is able to produce from their acquisition of Fleetsmith that they had earlier.
Well, that's where they got Apple has now their small business MDM platform that came out of that. So I'm curious, and you can look down at the Jamf page there, jamf.com/workspace recap. They talk about Google Chrome deployment and management on Macs, but I'm curious if there's, if they have entries in there to be able to also control, I don't think at this point Chrome OS, because all that is done through the admin dashboard. But, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are looking for that single pane of glass, so I wonder if there's a way to build in that kind of cross-compatibility. Could be interesting. There's a lot of Chrome APIs these days, so... And Chrome device more
APIs.
Every day,
right? And I've seen some device management tools, I think, attempting to get some visibility at least into the Chrome devices, if just saying, hey, these devices are in your workspace environment, they're enrolled. Here's the details, high level of them, name and serial number, those kind of things. Not that you can manage them and deploy the settings. I think it was more from an inventory perspective that they were integrating those devices. I think I'd seen before years ago.
Yeah, definitely, and for monitoring and whatnot. So I'll have to talk to the Jamf team and make the suggestion there.
Yeah, it was another interesting thing I was responding to recently on Twitter was a security professional talking about 2FA and now it's 3FA, and the emphasis in the article was really around security keys. And talking about how security keys are this third factor. But my response to him was that, well, you can't just implement security keys as a third factor. It really needs to be the factor and the only, and essentially just the second factor. Right? Because if you still allow push notifications and OTPs type stuff, users will still have that, will still get prompted for that in addition to the security keys. And that's why when I look at even Google's implementation of security keys on Android phones and iOS phones, is that when those phones act as a security key, they are still popping up and prompting the user. Now, the benefit, of course, of that is, you have to have Bluetooth enabled. You have to be near the device that's actually prompting it, right? So it does remove, I guess, that what they're calling like two-factor authentication fatigue, right? Where people are getting those notifications and saying, yeah, approved, and then it's happening. And then people are getting access. That's kind of what things are going. But, you really want to have only have security keys as your second factor. And then you remove all those one-time prompts and Google prompts, right? The Google prompts are a different version of the prompts for security keys. But that was my point, saying, you don't need a third factor. You just need a second factor, which is a security key. And it was a comment about, how well can that be done on endpoints and devices for logins? And I said, Chromebooks implement security keys great. And he's like, you found the one device that does two-factor authentication well, because I guess, Windows, Mac devices, they don't handle security key authentication very well. Even, I guess, Windows itself doesn't do it very well. And there was an issue with security keys and Google Credential Provider for Windows, and it just didn't interpret it well, I guess. And
wasn't Windows the first one to roll out the key card access for the military? You'd think they could just reuse some of that code.
Right. Smart card stuff, right?
Yeah, smart cards, exactly. Bring back smart cards, but in the form of YubiKeys.
It's kind of what it is. Right. FIDO Alliance.
Exactly.
Yeah. FIDO 2.
All right. So we have 123 things to go through. Oh,
easy.
no, wait.
We'll get through that in
just
a few
kidding.
minutes.
Just kidding. Only the workspace
quite.
things, folks, not 123. There's only 23. So we spared you 100 of them.
Right.
That are all about everything else, security and GCP. And we got one published release. So instead of going through all of them and giving you kind of the table of contents, if you will, as we normally do, because some of these, that's all they are, is just a couple of lines that they threw out in one of the keynotes. We're just going to go through these and talk about what we know about them, and share whatever we can from what we have here. But it's not all of them are released enough to have given us information to really talk about them at length yet. And then we have some of the source material and blog posts that have come out, including Google's blog post where they say all 123 things that they announced at Next 22, and some other interesting things that we discovered in the news, as we usually do. So, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, and I think this is definitely an episode to get that blog post out that has, full length coverage of what we're talking about today, because it far exceeds some of the, info containers that are on some of the podcast platforms.
Yep, for sure. And we'll have the link to that blog post in the show notes as well, either on the podcast side, because unfortunately the platform we use for distribution, which is called Anchor, has a limit on the amount of characters. So got to talk to them about lifting that limit, because we were just talking about this before the show on Spotify and on Google Podcasts and probably on Apple. I didn't check them, but they don't seem to. I mean, the limit is much larger, because we saw a couple of episodes from some other shows that that did not seem to have any kind of limit there. They had a ton of information in there. We want to be able to do that too. So, but in the interim, we will definitely make sure that the blog post link is on the podcast side so that you can click over, and then on the YouTube side, it's sometimes a better experience to read it on a blog post than in just the YouTube description of the video. So if you prefer, you can click on that link and jump right over. So, all right.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a quick message to send. Let's get into the topics then, or the updates for this week. One that came in, is that there's now improved visibility in Google Meet video calls, or improve your visibility. So that's the update we have there. As we said, there's 23 of those 123 topics and updates that came out related to Workspace. We will cover those in detail, and then quite a few things in other news, right? And in some of the news we've seen, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about. I'll run through those, and we'll get to those in detail at the end, after everything. So we saw that chips, canvases, and chats is Google's plan to, as they say, crush Office. That is an article there from The Verge. Building on the most open and extensible platform for hybrid work is an article we saw over at the Cloud blog, Google Cloud blog there. Another one from the Google Cloud blog is introducing innovations in Google Workspace to help organize and thrive in hybrid work, and that is from the new head of the Google Workspace
help your
team.
Organization thrive in hybrid work.
Yeah. Oh, did I? Yeah.
You said organize.
Helping. Oh, yeah. Helping organize. Okay. Helping your organization thrive. It's because they spelled organization wrong. That's why. Okay.
You're not actually British.
Yes, I am. I got the passport. I can show you.
That's
Anyways.
fair. That's fair.
So that's from Aparna, the new GM and VP of Google Workspace. And then we have some other links here about all of the Next 22 sessions, which is a YouTube playlist. There's also another podcast. Our colleagues over at the Google Cloud podcast have a Next 2022 session with Forrest Brazil. It's like a fancy way of spelling Brazil, and Stephanie Wong. So we'll see. I haven't listened to that one yet, but it looks interesting. I spent a lot of time listening to the Cloud podcast actually last year. A couple things we've seen like on Twitter we'll talk about, and then finally there's an article from the Google blog about bringing more of Google's productivity apps to Glass Enterprise. And I think I've mentioned before here, I've used Google Glass in the past. I loved it from a photo taking perspective, and like always having it there to grab a quick photo whenever you need it without taking out a phone and those kind of that was my primary use case of it. Loved it.
And directions
for that. Directions were good. Yeah, you were getting directions updated. Sure.
Yeah.
That was also useful. Those two were the top uses for me, anyways. So yeah, those are that's the updates there that we have. Let's jump into that first published release that we talked about, and that is the improving your visibility in Google Meet video calls. And as it says there, is part of the Next 2022 announcements. And kind of the quick overview of this is that it's about framing. It looks like here when you join Google Meet. So depending on the camera placement, sometimes you have, let's say maybe you're too far away. Things aren't framed as well as they could be. Looking at who you are, kind of like right now, the way I am, pretty close in the frame, and like Jesse. So this is going to help with that, and this automatic framing will happen only once. There's no motion distractions, and it doesn't change, as things evolve. So you can manually reframe the video at any time from the settings, or just kind of leave it as it is. So for end users, this is going to be a feature that is off by default, so you will need to enable it, which I think that's probably a good thing. It can be. I'm curious to see how well this actually works, but sometimes the framing stuff doesn't work as well as you'd imagine. We have some Logitech Meetup cameras that were meant to auto frame, and we thought they were, I think following the speaker or something was supposed to happen with that. I think it was a combination
more
of.
room, though. This is an individual.
It was for meeting room. You're right. This is individual. You're right. That's correct. But
I'm curious about how much quality is going to be lost if you have a 720p webcam and it's cropping in. You're losing, some of the. You're not losing it per se. It'll just look like you're losing it because it's focusing closer.
I don't know if it will. I wonder because when I look at most of the logs from Google Meet, very rarely am I seeing feeds that are coming in at 720p all the time in the logs. So I just wonder if they're going to be doing some, optimization there on the compression of what the cameras are providing to Google, and then how it interprets those, pixels and everything. So
could be, but the fact of the matter is, you're taking a potentially lowish quality video, and making it, zooming in on it. And any digital zoom, you always lose X amount of quality on there. I've got a 4K webcam, and I still can't use it because this doesn't even go at 1080. So I'm sure that's coming, as we've talked about in the past. But I'm curious what that's going to look like. Now, me personally, I'm just going to turn it off because I like having my whole setup here on camera. So
I'm glad you were talking there because it's very sherried, like Highland Park cask whiskey here, the cask strength whiskey I have went
I
down
saw
the
you
wrong
choking.
way.
I was running out of things to say.
Yeah, no, it was
Glad
good
you
saw
recovered.
that. Just went down the wrong way a little bit. Might need to get a drink of just normal water here. Give me a second.
There you go. Yeah, Riverside has the ability, like Google Meet, to do picture-in-picture and pop you out. So I've got you basically right next to my my camera here, so I can keep an eye on you when you're choking on from whiskey. It's like those Twitch streams where somebody has falls off their chair or gets hurt or has a heart attack midstream.
Yeah.
It's like somebody remote will call 911, from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. Right.
Well, thankfully we didn't have to do that, and Steve is fine,
Yeah.
and we can continue with the show.
Good. Still alive.
Staying alive.
Brian,
Staying alive.
Brian Kim
Sure.
in the Workspace community kind of messaged me the other day.
Shout out.
He was at a whiskey bar. Whisker. I don't know why I'm thinking about cats right now. It's weird. All right, a whiskey bar.
What's a whisker bar, Steve?
That's
Where
the
you've been
Cat
hanging out.
Emporium. Have you ever been to the Cat Emporium? There's a few different places. It's just room full of
that
cats, and you're in like a cafe.
The cafe with the cats? I've heard about that.
Yes. Yeah. The Cat Emporium.
Okay, so now you need. There you go, Steve. You need to start a cat whiskey bar and call it the Whisker Bar.
Right. That's it. I think I was talking to someone about this actually in the Workspace community. We're talking about this. That exact thing. I think we were talking about that. Anyways. Yeah, I know Brian was sharing some screenshots of whiskeys at a bar he was at and trying to point him in the right direction, basically is where I was going with that. All right, back to the update here. Roll-up pace on this one. Roll-up pace on this one started today for rapid release domains, and that's on an extended roll-up, potentially longer than 15 days for visibility there. Scheduled release domains are going to see this on a gradual rollout, up to 15 days for visibility, starting on the 2nd of November. And then in terms of availability here, this is a little interesting in terms of who this is available to, because we have a unique caveat to some of the personal Google users who are going to get this. And it could be down to, compute processing, GPU, CPU, whatever Google uses in the back end of how they're, applying this application. Yeah. So on the Workspace side, we're going to have Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Essentials, Enterprise Starter, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education, Teaching, and Learning Upgrade, and the Workspace individual customers with eligible devices. Again, it kind of is based on what your equipment can handle. They will be able to get this feature. And then for consumer accounts, essentially, those with Google One subscriptions over or with 2 terabytes or more storage space will also get this feature. So if you're paying if I recall correctly, 2 terabytes, what I have, which is, I think it's $9.99 a month or $99 a year if you pay up front. That's what I do, pay up front once a year, get all my storage, and you'll have access to this feature on the personal side of things. It's not available for, although it says it's not available for use with personal accounts, it's available to those personal accounts with Google One subscriptions. So keep that in mind. But it's not available to Google Workspace Essentials, Business Starter, Education Fundamentals, Frontline, Nonprofits, and G Suite Basic and Business customers.
Another thing I find interesting in the details, the support notes actually is, and it said this in the post earlier, is that it's not going to recenter you after doing the initial recentering, because it doesn't want to be like some of those annoying, distracting ones we've seen. Where, like NVIDIA or even the Opal C1, which is what I'm using to record this, has a feature where it will, follow me around the screen. Yeah. It's annoying. And so it says
that's
here
what
that
saying.
you actually...
When we had it, we were looking at that. It was just really...
And some are better than others. It's cool. But you will be able to recenter the video manually should you change your position, whatever, during it. You can trigger that during the call, which is pretty cool. So just wanted to mention that there.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So that published release, we got that out of the way. And when we look here at the now whittled down 23 updates that we have for Workspace. Where do you want to begin? Should we begin to the top of the
May
list
as well. May as well go through them. Yeah, rock and roll.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to lose track of where you are. It's not like
True.
we're using
Yeah.
a collaborative document where I can see your cursor or anything.
Oh no, yeah, not at all. You can't see what I'm selecting. We're talking about
Yep.
first. Well, yeah, as we just spoke about that, framing is the first one.
Mm-hmm. Different than the update we just talked about. This is the one for conference rooms, as Steve has another coughing fit on the other end here. For anybody who's on the video side, you'll be able to see what that looks like. Thankfully, he's muted, and we can't hear him. So I'll talk about this one, I guess. This is there he is. Just come back. This is adaptive framing gives everyone a chance to be seen in the conference room when collaborating with remote colleagues using AI-powered cameras, specifically from Hudley and Logitech. This is different than the last one because this will keep framing and moving throughout the call because it is designed to highlight the individual or individuals or group of individuals who are speaking at that point in time from a conference room so that everybody who is remote will kind of feel almost like they're in the room and they can turn and look at the people that are doing the talking. We're going to see how well this works. In the past with other features that we've seen or other companies that have tried to build this out. Again, it has been a little distracting or nauseating in one experience that I had. So, Google has been struggling with trying to figure out how this is going to work in the past, even going as far as building out, video screens in the conference room instead of people sitting in seats for those who are remote. So this looks to be like the more scalable approach to that, but we'll see if it's actually able to work properly and not make people dizzy.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle that I've seen with the Logitech Meetup hardware, trying to work with framing users in a room and knowing who's speaking and having that kind of zoom in or, frame that speaking person a little bit better. Definitely takes a little while when it did work. And it was very wide in terms of, it wasn't like in the animation that we saw for the individual, where it came zoomed in on that person, that individual person. Of course, there's only one person typically in that situation there. A little bit more challenging when you have people sitting around, in different configurations to quickly, reframe and zoom into that person. And I'm curious. I know I have my lights behind me today. We're talking about framing and video stuff right now.
You got something coming out of your head there.
Yeah, I know. So my lights are behind me today. They're not on, and usually they're in front of me. But I thought we might have a decent amount of light, but it is getting a little bit darker here. So hopefully we're still looking good. Enough light. Seems okay. So can we
glowing,
Jesse, if it gets
glowing
too
by the
dark
monitor.
I need to. I don't know how I'll do this, but it's a tight squeeze behind me.
Well, don't
Anyways,
backlight yourself. That wouldn't work so well. So
Right.
when you open up whatever you just opened, now you're lit from below.
Yeah.
I have the same thing going on here. Is it's totally and completely overcast here in Long Beach.
Yeah.
So I have perfect diffusion from the window in front of me. I have no other lights on. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I open up the show notes and you have that white background of the Google Doc. That's what happens.
You got to turn down your brightness.
So I can just go like, ooh. Come in. I don't know.
There you go.
So that's one of the first ones. Next one we have, we talked about this already in the last episode, was around meeting room check-ins, letting participants know who's in the room by displaying their names alongside the room. It was kind of the enhanced capabilities of seeing some things there in the meet side panel there. And then let's see what else. Companion mode mobile is giving some in-room attendees the ability to fully participate by raising their hand. So this companion mode mobile, I thought I've been using companion mode though all the time. Hasn't this?
Yeah, I was also wondering, didn't this already show up?
Yeah, like the g.co/companion, right? Or just when you're on a Meet page, it says use companion mode.
Oh, this is
This
didn't
is
we?
like the in-room attendees. We did talk about
This
this.
is
I thought
this is. I
before.
think this is part of what we talked about last week too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where basically, yeah, you tap in and say, "Hey, I'm in the companion room," and then I'm in the conference room as companion mode, and
Right.
then you can raise your hand for questions
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think that's a
Yeah.
two-parter that is also covered in. I almost said last week's episode, or maybe I did say it. I don't remember,
I think
but
a
it was really
previous
only 2 or 3
episode.
days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff here around
Part
Meet, of
one.
course. And I think there's a good amount of the updates that we have in this list of 23 here, the things that I've been kind of testing out for a little bit or known about for a little while. So I thought, to me, the updates were a little bit like, oh, I've seen these already. I knew about this, or, I was aware of this kind of already. So that's kind of why
Right.
there's definitely some interesting ones here. Probably for everyone else that maybe hasn't seen them, hasn't been staying up to date on some of the
Maybe
alpha
isn't
beta
in the
releases.
alpha. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it was a lot of them that we been seeing from that early adoption of these features, and some that are, I think that haven't been released just yet, that are being talked about though now openly. So, the next one here is assigning conference rooms to breakout rooms and helping manage logistics for in-room attendees. And I think that one was also covered. I think we also did talk about that as well. It sounds very familiar. And then another interesting one was, I think you put interesting there, Jesse. I don't think I did. Was the automatic video framing.
Well, we
This is
talked
the
about
one we
this
just talked
already.
about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in there as an
So-
update, but it was also a proper update. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see here. Auto transcriptions, removing the burden of taking notes, and again, one that I've been leveraging for quite a while and taking advantage of the recording and the transcriptions for a couple of months now. Really useful when you want to search Drive for some text or some reference to what was being said, and then probably correlate that back to a video recording possibly, and kind of see where in the video that may have happened, or where in the recording that may have happened, and then you can quickly cycle, forward into that spot, into the movie, into the recording meeting as needed. And some additional notes here. I don't know if it was on the announcement, if there was one, but it talks about English being first, with some French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish coming a little bit later next year. And then, this is an interesting one. So, and I'll give you a little candid or insider information. Insider information here. So, speaker spotlight and slides collapses the boundary between the story and the storyteller in a hybrid world here by placing the speaker's video directly within their content. Now, something that some friends of mine noticed when they were in Munich at a presentation from a Googler is the top right corner of Google Slides was very different for the Googler than it was with with us normal non-Googlers. And there was a redesign in terms of the buttons. So the buttons were a little bit more rounder. They weren't that square. They weren't square with the rounded edges. They were more round in general. And then there were some additional icons that you saw after you had the sharing and the slideshow, and then the Meet icon. There were some additional icons in between there. So, whether or not those new options are going to be coming to consumers or to business users in the future or not, I don't know. But there are new things being developed from that perspective. We've seen from Googlers.
have you seen the speaker spotlight in action yet? Have you
I don't think I
used
have.
this?
I don't think I have. Maybe it could be one of those buttons. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Because this looks really interesting, and I really want to see how this is being used, because the screenshot that they have, which I need to learn if I can put GIFs in Final Cut Pro, or if I'm going to have to record the screen to be able to put this in the video here. But it shows a Google Meet, and it shows the presenting mode with the slide on the screen, but then it also has the presenter on the slide talking. And so I'm curious if that's something that you trigger inside of Google Slides that we haven't seen yet, or if that's just an overlay that was put in. I mean, it's in a circle frame, so it looks like it's obviously intentional. I'm just curious how that integration happens. So that private preview begins later this year, so I probably just answered my own question there. They're probably still figuring it out.
It could be one of these images, one of these icons. I'll share this. I'll have to share this image with you that I have of all the different buttons up there. We can figure that one out together, maybe. See what's going on. And then, your favorite topic and not mine, custom emojis.
Actually, custom emojis is not really the reason that I had highlighted this one.
Oh, is it not? Okay.
It's the threaded conversations, which I think
Even
you
worse.
like even less.
Yeah, I know. It's like two of the worst updates that I
And we had on Twitter, somebody was asking us repeatedly, where's this? When's it coming? We want to roll this out, and I'm with you. I agree.
Please.
And it was finally now it's coming later on this month. So stay tuned for that.
I'm part of it, and there's some of the spaces that I have access to use this, and I don't like it at all. Really don't like it. I don't know what else to say.
I am very much looking forward to this feature. I live in chat. My whole team lives in chat, and we do use threads, but inline thread is just, in my opinion, going to be so much more organized and easy to follow, and so on. And custom emojis, I mean, we were joking around about this before the show, is, hey, Google rolls out custom emojis, just as the articles come out that say, oh, emojis are boomer things now, and thumbs up is passive-aggressive, so you can't use that anymore.
Yeah, that article hit internally, 1871 from our CEO today, and I'm like, an interesting topic to be discussing.
Yeah, okay, millennials. Just like, okay, boomer, okay, millennials. Although I'm technically a millennial, so I don't think I can say that.
All right. Well, maybe you kind of sit there on the border.
What's the next generation? I do. What's the next generation called? I don't remember. Gen X or something.
I don't know. I don't keep track of it. I just try to get along with everyone.
Yeah, same. But anyway, well, if you're interested in custom emojis, they're coming, and inline threaded conversations are finally coming to chat to enable people to express themselves more authentically and go deeper on specific conversations, unless you're from Generation X, in which case don't use emojis.
Yeah, right. I guess so. The next one I actually really like this. The broadcast
GIFs,
only
by the way.
spaces.
Or GIFs. I heard that GIFs are also can't use them anymore.
Whatever.
Thumbs down. Anyway, go on. Next.
Yes. Broadcast only spaces for Google Chat. So this is something that I think it's pretty useful. That you can make them only, announcement onlys, and maintain connection there with the organization by just pushing stuff out. It is very useful for, I was using chat and groups, group rooms within Hangouts when it used to be just Hangouts, to kind of use these kind of announcement-based groups to, get, I'm trying to think of here, like notifications and alerts out of incidents that were happening. And it wasn't really meant for a conversation around it per se, but it was meant more for, hey, this is happening right now, you need to be aware of it, and let's talk about it elsewhere, but we need to make sure that everyone knows about it, and that's what we were doing in those groups. So nice to see that functionality being coming into chat in terms of only having select individuals being able to post in there, because that was not something that was possible before. You could have those groups, have the spaces, anyone can make those posts, and now there'll be some control over that.
I'm curious if you're going to be able to react to the broadcast only posts.
You mean like in Slack? Is that what you mean?
Like in Slack? Well, like on any other post, but if it's a broadcast only, in theory, I think that you should be able to. And I apologize, folks. I'm looking over at the blog post where they go a little teeny bit more into detail about some of these, and they do actually have timelines for some of these for when they're coming. So we are, like I said, going to include the links to all of these. But if I see it while we're talking about it, I will shout out when it's coming, such as the meeting room check-in is coming early in 2023. Companion mode mobile as a second screen and Meet is also early 23. And controlling slides, we didn't even get there yet. Controlling slides directly in Meet, did we get there? Or is that still...
I don't know if we had.
Uh-oh, did we miss an update? So hard to keep track of all of these updates. It's unbelievable.
I don't see the word control, but
well, on
speaker,
here
we
you
talked
can.
about speaker
I think
spotlight.
this one may have come previously and therefore wasn't officially announced here, but it's in the post anyway. But controlling slides directly within Meet, you can boost presenter confidence by allowing presenters to see their audience and content at the same time. And that's rolling out this week, so that's coming right now. Which I like that a lot. I think that's a really good one. So.
Nice. And where did you see? Where were we reading that? Where was that announced?
I'm on the Introducing Innovations in Google Workspace to Help Your Organization Thrive in Hybrid Work post on the Google Cloud blog.
That one. Yes, I mean where your cursor's at right now in the notes we're looking at. Got it.
Yep.
It's amazing features. Click on your picture. Boom. I'm there. Yes. Just wanted to so let me see here. Where are we at next? I keep saying next and thinking about the whole session, but that's not what we're saying here.
SIP. We covered it last episode, but SIP link,
yes. SIP link. So that's going to be a new, very useful one. I'm actually getting more involved in voice these days. We are moving away from our PRI trunk and saving about $20,000 over the course of 3 years by moving to Google Voice is what it's looking like right now. Early estimates. Yeah. So, and that's not even including, I think, the discounts that we may be getting on Voice. So
very nice.
Yeah. It's looking promising, and we don't have that many numbers. I mean, this is only based off of, like a $700 a month phone bill that we used to have. So
right,
it's a substantial savings. That's even with the cost of, buying new handsets that are compatible. And, I didn't even include our server costs, our maintenance costs on the servers, software updates on the on-prem stuff like Cisco Call Manager. That wasn't even factored in. We're just saving $17,000 over 3 years just on the equipment and the line rental and all that stuff. It's amazing. So
gotta love it.
Big cost savings for us there as a nonprofit, which is great. And yeah, so this is just more capabilities and features there on the voice side, which is great. And then next, more APIs, and this is something that when we talked with Charles earlier this year on the podcast here, Charles from the Charles Maxon from the DevRel team was talking all about APIs coming out this year. And here we are. We have I don't know, maybe it was last year we spoke to them, but more APIs are always good. These are going to be coming for Meet and Chat and Meet and Hangouts. Like this is one of the APIs that people have just been hounding Google about. I remember this. I mean, this has been a discussion for ages with Google and customers that I've worked with in the past, and finally there's some capabilities here on the API side with those two platforms. I think Chat's been the Chat API has been there for a little while, but the Meet one is definitely new, and there'll be some functionality here like creating and starting meetings or initiating messages directly from third-party apps. And those third-party apps are going to be things like Asana and Loom apps. They'll be some of the first partners to leverage these in their apps. So that's great. And then in addition to APIs, those
will be launching early 23. Both the APIs and the add-on SDK.
Be here before you know.
Etc. Yep.
Yeah, and the SDK is the next one. The Meet add-on SDK to embed apps directly in the Meet experience. With Figma being one of the first add-on partners there. And then, just made a joke earlier about this last one here that we're going to talk about in this section, which is the chat and app sheet integration, enabling more people to create and interact with custom apps right within Chat. And I was kind of joking that, here's two of some of the least used Workspace applications coming together to maybe create an even less used application or use case. And I always say that,
what?
I know. Well, so I'm a huge proponent. I love Chat. That
Same.
I like Chat over Slack, right? But I guess what I'm saying is that what I see actually happening with most companies, most organizations, they aren't using Chat, unfortunately, because everyone's been so ingrained, with Slack and just like Zoom. Those two things actually, those two third-party apps. I'm just flabbergasted that no one uses them as much as I do, and they should be using them, especially when you're on Google Workspace.
Well, for us, when the pandemic hit, it was like, all right, well, everyone is still pretty much
no
on
cost.
everyone.
There.
Well, everyone is on email, but now we're making a decision about our communications, and we're going to, cloud-based voice and video and chat, and we had to make a decision, a judgment call at that point. Okay, well, do we want to stay all in one platform and take advantage of the possible integrations that'll come down the road, which we're realizing has been fantastic, or do we want to use Zoom for video calls like pretty much everybody else in the industry was at that time, and possibly go towards Slack or even RingCentral, bundle together the phone and the chat, messaging at the same time. And I made the call that no, I want to be all in on the Google environment, and I want to have that interoperability. And I think that was really the right move, because that seems to be the name of the game now as they go towards what's next for Workspace. It seems to be all about smart chips and interoperability between all of the different applications. So, it should definitely be interesting. But I don't know about AppSheet. AppSheet still has a ways to go, and I mean, I love chat, and it'll be cool to see what people can build with AppSheet, but AppSheet's pretty basic.
I just kind of thought of like the phrase "you basic,"
talking about all the modern day slang.
From. Yeah, I know, right? Whatever. All right. Let's see. What do we got next? We've got a big section here. Well, a decent sized section here in Smart Canvas, and that's a big part of how we're seeing a lot of these different workspace applications come together in terms of pulling in information and data from one app to another. And I don't know, I think did I talk to you about what Google was calling the hub way back? It was meant to be this kind of new way of like the information between the apps were coming together. And I think this is kind of the evolution of what that concept was many years ago. And it's, how, now I can see the change in the video. We're getting a little too dark now. Yeah.
Okay, Google, turn on Steve's lights.
Well, we can do that. We can say, hey, Google, turn on the whiskey lights.
There you go. Get yourself some accent lighting.
And get some whiskey lights there.
There you go.
So
now you're a little backlit.
a little bit, yeah. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit. I'll kind of leave the bright screen on here. We'll turn the brightness up a bit. Get some front lighting here. Should realize that we're gonna get late in the day here, 6:00. So Smart Canvas, a lot of things happening there with Google Docs and being able to pull in meeting notes, emails, those kind of things. But it's going to custom building box is going to allow users to build their own reusable components that can be easily accessed using that add menu. So looking forward to see what that brings to the end user to be able to kind of customize things as you need it.
Available later this year.
Nice, great, coming soon. Some of the variables in Google Docs to enable users to define common data elements in a doc, such as a client name or contract number. Update it throughout the document by changing the value in one place. That is very, very good. I completely missed that. That's going to be a game changer for, I think, a lot of organizations, and especially if you're doing the creation of statements of work, contracts, all those kind of things. I know, previously working at a Google partner, it was a big part of what we used were all these templates that had placeholders and double squiggly brackets around things, and it's a find and replace of all of these things, and update it all, and that was a big part of what we were doing on a regular basis. So nice to see that coming directly as a feature. A couple other ones, and as Jesse's mentioning here in the notes, that's going to be available early of next year. A couple other smart chip updates that we covered in the last episode. With the new timeline view in Google Sheets. And then we also have some smart chip data extraction to let users quickly populate sheets with important info. So those are also coming out here soon. And then third-party app integrations with these chips. And a lot of third parties here listed in terms of what kind of data you're going to be able to pull in from these third-party apps. So AO Docs, of course, AO Docs still around, still see them popping up here. Asana, Atlassian, Figma, Lumaps, Miro, Tableau, Zendesk, all those coming soon. So some pretty good names in that list there of third parties that are going to be integrated there with chips. So that is a nice addition. And I saw a lot of comments in some of the Workspace groups and communities about that one from some people. Christian, for example, I think was pretty excited to see that. So we'll see what that brings when that comes out.